Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We are back with our Friday night deadline stream special, slightly earlier than planned. Remember, we have got how many minutes? We've got 60, 75 minutes till the deadline. I'm joined by Mr. Dean Jones and a special guest for this evening, fresh from interviewing Gvardiol at Man City earlier. It's Premier League Productions, Talk of the Devils podcast, Amazon TV, I think. Ian Irving, do you do some Amazon stuff, Ian?
You always give me a nice build-up, Gianni, don't you? Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for being here, mate. I'm looking forward to chatting Manchester clubs and FPL in general with you this evening. Dean, we're going to have to ask the chat what shirt you're wearing this evening because I can't quite work that out. So maybe we'll put it to the chat and see who gets it first.
Yeah, let's see. Let's check people's knowledge. Check if there's anyone here beyond like the year 2000, like 2001.
Mate.
Yeah, we genuinely might be struggling in this chat room for anyone that knows this shirt. But it's definitely a favourite of mine. How are we feeling, mate? Are you on board with your team? I mean, we'll talk about the disaster I'm facing in a minute, but I noticed you've already been on a couple of shows today. You must be in good shape for this week.
I think so, but I've just thought I've not even checked my actual team since I sent a screen grab to our producer yesterday. So I'm like, because we don't usually do deadline streams, do we? So I'm usually around my phone and on my laptop, but not streaming for deadline. So I don't want to miss that deadline and just want to make sure that I've not got any flag players and I've got the captain on the right guy and all that jazz. So no doubt I'll be doing that in an hour's time. But yeah, I feel pretty set. Any guesses? Burnley away, says Mark. No, it's not Burnley away. Hello to all you guys in the chat.
That's rogue.
Yeah, it's got the sort of colours of a Burnley, I guess. Bit of claret.
No one can even guess. Look, nobody's got any idea what shirt this is.
Knowledgeable.
I mean, they were pretty rubbish at the time. I guess there's no reason.
No.
I can't believe this badge is that unknown, to be honest. Like,
I've
you
never
two
seen
were a
that
bit
badge.
flummoxed by it at the start. Yeah,
I'm not going to make the same joke that I made before we started the stream because they're never as funny second time around. And I don't
it was a good one.
Anyone either. Yeah.
Whatever San Diego's team is, no, this is not San Diego Loyal or San Diego Wave. It's nothing to do with San Diego. No, good guess, Mark.
The latest guess
a bit closer to my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, the latest guess of Essex Methodist League 11 is actually closer, isn't it?
He's actually close. In terms of the quality this team was playing at the time, that is actually very close.
Mark's gone for Tranmere. Yeah, keep guessing,
it does look
guys.
a bit like a Tranmere shirt. Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, yeah, it's... should we reveal it now or at the end of the show? We can keep it.
Punter's
got it. Of course, it's Fulham. Come on.
Yeah.
Fulham. I think it's the 1991 kit, yeah. Maybe, no, it might even be 89. I was mascot for Fulham on my 8th birthday. And this kit was actually before that, so I wasn't wearing this. It had the same sponsor, though. It was a Teleconnect shirt that I'm wearing in the mascot photo. So I think I was the year... Yes, this must have been about 88 or something like that, I reckon. So yeah, it's a long time back. There's absolutely no chance that anyone in this chat was even born in 1988. So I'm talking to a crowd here that just does not care.
Before we crack on then with Fresh of the Press, let's go around the room and see what our first season we remember in the Premier League. Maybe the first year you had a sticker album. Mine was the 95 black front cover sticker album with Cantona in a sharp view cam shirt with his collar on.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I remember that well. Do you remember yours, Ian?
One before that, the blue one, 94,
okay, yeah.
I think it was, which was the first Merlin one. I mean, I'm an 86 birthday, so I vaguely remember the start of the Premier League, but I'm very, very early days of that.
Yeah,
but certainly, that first sticker album, 94.
I remember that first sticker album. Yeah, I do. I do remember the first sticker album. Yeah. Do you know what? I got so addicted to that sticker album at school, I completed the album, and then me and my mate collected it backwards, like the backs of all the stickers. We also completed a whole album with the backs of the stickers, not the backs of we'd taken off of the ones that we'd had in the first place. Started all over again. That's how geeky and into football was at the time. Yeah. Sad life I had, mate.
At university, me and my best mate decided to go again, and we collected the, I don't know, it must have been the 2006, 7 or 7, 8 book, and we went to a swap shop at the Emirates, and honestly, we're the only people in the room over the age of 12. Everyone was there with their mums, and then we were there as 20-year-olds, like swapping with the kids.
And somehow you weren't the most immature in the room, Johnny, either, were you? Most mature, sorry.
I did
when you mess up jokes.
I did win the kick as hard as you can competition machine at the Emirates, because I was literally competing with 8-year-olds, and it was relief. I think I won a few stickers. Look, fresh off the press, coming up next. Let's play that sting. Hey, Dean, before we go into fresh off the press, Cameron's just sent a super chat in. Love you guys. Gabriel Trent as a differential. What do we got? What do we reckon about Gabriel's chances of starting, Dean? I'll come to you first.
Scary different. I find that a scary differential. Do you know what worries me a little bit too is that earlier on in the window, I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, but early on in the window, when I was like asking about, asked contacts of mine, like who could be like a shock departure to look for, he said Gabriel. He was like, there is a small chance Gabriel. Like if there was anyone that would like you'd be like, this guy isn't completely safe, it's him. Partly because of his role, but partly also because he had a couple of, I think PSG were interested at the time. So when he wasn't in the team last week, I was suddenly like, my mind like went back to that conversation. I was like, oh yeah, like this was a narrative that he told me to look out for. It's too risky for me. I mean, I don't really see the point in that.
Yeah, I think you stick, Cameron. But in Gabriel, wasn't it pre-season? He had a shocker. Was it against Sancho for one of the goals? I'm sure it was Sancho against Gabriel. He sort of ran clear in the States and didn't have the best pre-season, did he?
No, I mean, I didn't see all of his pre-season, but obviously there's that mistake you've mentioned. To be honest, I'd do it. I mean,
would you?
I'm annoyed that I can't afford Trent at the moment. I've got Salah and Haaland, so it's very difficult to get Trent as well. But if you
I've read that wrong. I thought it was getting in Gabriel. That's why I was saying don't do it. Yeah, definitely do it. If you've got Gabriel and you're going to Trent, yeah. I mean, I think that could be a great differential because Trent has been so well owned down the years. He's probably at one of his lowest ownerships. Certainly at the start of the season, they're at home to Bournemouth. Do it, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, but yeah.
I also think Palace score. I think Palace will score as well against Arsenal. Like I've actually got that down as my shock to look out for, like my upset alert kind of result for this weekend. I've just got a sneaky feeling that Palace could do something in that game.
Do you know as well? I hate owning players that you like desperately searching for team sheets to find out whether they're playing or not, and that.
You're on to mute.
Oh, has he muted himself?
I think you've muted yourself, Matt.
Yeah, I'm not as worried actually about midfielders and forwards being rotated this season as previous times. We'll probably talk about it with some of the options later on. But in terms of defenders, I definitely don't want those rotated. And the uncertainty there is over Gabriel. I've heard varying sort of opinions from that might be the only time that he gets rotated all season to actually this might happen on the regular, and it might just be not just him that's under threat with it. So a move like that just removes the threat, and I'm already thinking about ways to get Gabriel out of my team as well, to be honest. So if you've got the option to go to Trent, wouldn't even blink.
Yeah. If you don't have Chilwell though, Cam, I do prefer the Gabriel to Chilwell switch. But yeah, there you go. There's good options. And thank you for sending another super chat in. He said, love your answer. Let's move to some news from the press conference then, Dean. Like press conferences. What have we seen and learned in the last couple of days? Like there's been a few bits of news centered around injuries, unfortunately.
Oh, mate. I was so big on Reece James coming into this season. I was like, no, he's going to be fine. He's going to get a good run into this season and I'm going to back him. I mean, I was obviously had some trepidation around it because I also came up with that plan to put Malo Gusto on my bench as a 4 million option because I was like, well, when he drops out, I've got his replacement straight in there to step in. So even if it's just before kickoff, I'm going to be fine because I've got his backup guy in. Oh, mate, after game week 1, this is a disaster. I feel so sorry for the bloke, first and foremost. I know one of his friends, I was just texting him earlier, and like he's obviously devastated about it. But the news is at the moment, I mean, or the headline on it is it's not days, it's weeks. So we don't even know how long this is going to set him back exactly, but he started rehabilitation to it, and they're undergoing further assessment as to how long this hamstring problem's going to actually keep him out. But obviously, like, this changes my own mindset on like whether I'm going to be able to trust him at all throughout the course of this season, and whether you just switch to Chilwell now and just stick with that, because is this going to be worth the hassle across the course of a campaign? Like, probably not. Like, what's the points difference really going to be between? I felt that coming in, like, Reece might have the edge on Chilwell if he could stay fit all season. But if he's not going to stay fit all season, then he's not going to get the edge on him anyway across the course of a campaign. So somehow I need to now make a switch and get to Chilwell, I think.
I like that switch. I think Chilwell. I was looking at the fullbacks like up and down the league, and thinking of years gone by when we all wanted like Cancelo, Trent, Robertson, because they were so attacking, right? Man City and Liverpool don't attack like that anymore. And the fullbacks are kind of more reserved, or they're inverted. But Chelsea under Poch look a little bit 3, 4, 5 years ago from what you'd see from Man City or Liverpool, where, like, especially Chilwell, he's encouraged to play almost as a wide forward. And I love that freedom. And I looked at some of the other players in the league and thought, Estupiñán and Chilwell, Brighton and Chelsea, certainly through their left backs, probably the two only teams in the league really that give their fullbacks complete license like that. So I think Chilwell, if you don't have him, you can beeline to Chilwell. If you own Gabriel, it's an easy switch. If you own James, it's an easy switch. Is he in your team, Ian?
Who's that? Chilwell?
Yeah.
Yeah, this week he is. I made the move on Monday night to catch the price rise, which is very unlike me. But I had John Stones and Gabriel. So like Dean, I was enjoying the start to the season with my my defense. But yeah, I just made the move. I was the only reason I really had Stones at the start was because I wasn't sure whether to get James or Chilwell, and I wanted to give it a couple of weeks to decide. And that was a bit stupid, really. We should know not to book transfers in. It's the type of advice that I tend to give other people when playing. But I did think that sort of City would have a clean sheet at Burnley and then crack on from there, and that'd cover me while I made the decision. And then Stones fixed up the injury, which obviously wasn't reported or known about until the day. I did that game actually for the Premier League. And when I turned up, I was told that John Stones wasn't part of the squad. And I was like, oh, here we go. So if you've not got Chilwell, I think he should be, the number one choice in defence at the moment. He looks so attacking. But I disagree with what you said a moment ago, Gianni. I think there are more fullbacks in this league, and we'll see this as time goes on, who will be given that license to attack. We've only got 1 week of data so far, but the evidence from pre-season was that there's a number of sides who are looking to do that. I mean, even the
Rico
Spurs
Henry
fullbacks,
at Brentford, I guess. Yeah,
Rico Henry
Hoagie
at Brentford, the Spurs fullbacks, both of them, were very, very attacking in that game against Brentford. I think you'll also find that Matty Cash at Aston Villa, who's in my team, I intend to start him this week, was extremely attacking in pre-season as well. There's others I've not mentioned, but yeah, there's definitely other options deeper into the league who are attacking. It's just whether you're getting that clean sheet benefit as well as obviously the attacking potential. Someone like Rico Henry's perfect for it because, how many clean sheets he's going to get and how do you sort of weigh that up with how attacking he is? That's the key.
Good point. And yeah, I guess I'm not willing to necessarily always look further down the table because I'm like, I'm not interested in a defender from Brentford or Villa or whatever, but perhaps we should be because, Villa, especially on the ball again, like we'll see a back three and then Cash given license.
You've got a Chelsea defender, haven't you?
Yeah, but, Chelsea under Poch going to be amazing, mate.
Well, I just mean, you said lower down the league and talked about Aston Villa and Brentford.
Respectable 12th last year for Chelsea.
Just a polite point, that's all.
It's fair. Dean, speaking of mid-table and lower down the league, Fulham got off to a good start on paper, but looking at the XG Fulham conceded last season, I'm trying to divert the attention straight away off Chelsea, clearly. But the XG they conceded to Everton, I was shocked. I think Fulham, from all the teams in the league that we saw in Game Week 1, very small data sample size, I think Fulham looked the weakest defensively, which is amazing because they actually kept a clean sheet. But I think we might want to start targeting Fulham. They look on the ropes, mate. What do you say to that?
A bit harsh. I mean, obviously we had a terrible pre-season, and obviously people have been after our striker, our manager, Paulinho as a doubt around him. Like it's been like a disaster basically. We've signed next to no one except for a couple of Wolves players. But the one thing we have got is Calvin Bassey, and he hasn't actually played. Didn't play in the first game. Now, Calvin Bassey is actually a really good player. I wonder if we might see him for the first time actually tomorrow against Brentford, and I'll be interested to see what sort of role he gets for Fulham. So, yeah, I actually took the opposite view. I fully expected us to get nothing from Everton. And the fact that we came away from that game with a 1-0 win when we've been completely rattled. Mitro was out there when he didn't want to be. We've nicked a goal against the odds. Bernd Leno had an absolute worldie of a game, like unbelievable goalkeeping performance. So the fact we got through that, now we've got Brentford at home tomorrow, which is a massive game for Fulham. Like it's our big rivalry, basically. It's our big London derby. So I'll be honest, like they should probably be favourites in this game, but I fancy us to win because it's our first home game. There's just going to be a special feel to it, I think, tomorrow. And I've got a feeling Raul Jimenez is going to do a lot better than anyone is expecting. Like obviously no one's probably watched as much of Fulham as I have in pre-season or the first week of the season. Mate, he looks good. Like he's looking sharp. He's getting actually into the positions that Mitro got into. And our other backup striker, Carlos Vinicius, doesn't do that. Well, he does, but he's just not good enough to actually do anything about it. And Raul Jimenez is actually starting to show a little bit that he can do bits around the box still. Hit the post against Everton last week. I'm not saying get Raul Jimenez in your FPL team at this moment in time, but Mitro is out tomorrow. He's not playing. It's an injury, not a Saudi Arabia move at this point. That might be the week after. But yeah, Mitro not in the team. I've got to say, in terms of team news, though, just cross. I know we're going to be talking Man City in a minute, but I think Man City is probably the other big team news of the day. I was reading Pep Guardiola talking about Man City, and they're in such a weird situation considering like they're the treble winners and they are so good and they should be considered favourites still. But obviously, like they've had their own turmoil in terms of trying to hold on to a couple of players they didn't want to lose, trying to get out a couple of players they did want to lose. And still, you get to this first game of the season, and John Stones now not going to be playing. Ruben Dias doesn't sound to me as like going to be playing. Bernardo Silva might not be playing. Kevin De Bruyne out for 4 months. I saw Pep saying, like, he's talking up Newcastle, so we're playing an extraordinary team. They've made perfect signings for how they play. They're a Champions League team now. I was like, he's really getting us ready for the fact that City are in for a tough test here. Obviously, John Stones has messed my team up. I'm not going to make 2 transfers this week. I'll have to decide if it's him or Reece James that gets ditched. But yeah, it's just thrown me a little bit about what to actually expect from Man City in these early weeks.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Ian? You interviewed Gvardiol earlier. Number one question to you is about him, and is he going to be a great FPL option at 5 million? Because when Pep signed centre-backs, we saw it with Laporte, we saw it with Diaz, we saw it with Akanji even last season. He tends to give his newbie a good run of games, and obviously spend that sort of money, he's going to be first 11. You think Gvardiol becomes a good FPL option? He's 5 million, cheaper than Diaz, cheaper than Stones.
Yeah, I think he does. And as you saw in the Super Cup, you know, he can invert as well. There's going to be times this season, if not more often than not, actually, where he plays at left back and does that role. And certainly, obviously, with the ongoing absence of John Stones, then that is a thing to keep an eye on. He's only 5 million as well, but caveat any Manchester City player other than Erling Haaland and the goalkeeper, Ederson, to say that you just never know, do you, to be honest? I could sit here now and say with complete confidence that Pep Guardiola loves him, that they've paid 77 million quid and that he'll play every week. And then we'd see the team sheets face Newcastle and he's sat on the bench. But yeah, at 5 million, it's less of a gamble than paying the extra 0.5 for some of the others. You know, he's very good on the ball. Interviewing him today, he was talking up how much he's looking forward to working under Pep because of the way that he empowers his defenders to play football. And obviously that's going to be a benefit when it comes to City keeping clean sheets and then him being up for bonus points and things like that. He actually scored against Manchester City in the Champions League as well. Yeah. So maybe there's a little bit of pedigree in attack as well for him. But yeah, it's an interesting one, City, because they don't always have the biggest of squads. I know that sounds like a strange thing to say considering it's Manchester City, but he really does like to operate with, 15, 16 first team players, and then the rest of the squad and the bench is decorated with up and coming youngsters. And clearly the departures of Gundogan and Mahrez, and then obviously the injuries to John Stones, to Kevin De Bruyne. You've got the doubts over Ruben Diaz and Bernardo Silva as well. We don't know what's happened with João Cancelo, who's just not involved at the minute. And there's not really been much of a confirmed on-the-record update about him. There's not as many options as there was. Actually, for us FPL managers, this could be a bit of an opportunity to be a little bit more confident about who plays. But then again, when you look at it, there's like one or two in or out, and there's still doubt over like the rest of them.
Right.
So
yeah, I had to Forgive Me Sport the other day. They were like, "Oh, we're going to start doing predicted 11s." I was like, "Oh no!" They were like, "First one, Man City, Sevilla." I was like, "What?" Anyway, I got 10 out of 11, and I was like,
Cole Palmer, was he the one you didn't get?
Yeah, and I was like, I sent it off, and I was like, "Do you know what? I'm confident that I've got 10 out of 11 there. There'll be one wrong," but I was like, I sent it off, like, feeling quite fine about it, to be honest. And when it came out, I was like, yes, that wasn't too bad a job. So maybe that will continue to be the case for now, anyway.
Okay, yeah. Look, we'll have to ask Ian on his predicted 11 and see if you agree with it, Dean. Coming up next in Pep Roulette. But before we play that sting, Ian, just to give you a warning, I'm a Foden owner, and I'm going to be asking you about that. And I'm going to be asking you about Bernardo Silva's red flag on the FPL website, because it says illness, but I think Fantasy Football Scout today mentioned that he was doubtful. So I'm a little bit confused on that one. Is he a doubt or is he completely out? Perhaps you can give us a steer on that next up in Pep Roulette. I forgot to mention, we've got a super chat coming in. I saw it flash up 5 minutes ago from Tony, who I think is in Canada, and he's given $13.99 of his Canadian dollars our way. Thank you, dude. He says, "Hello, Gianni and Dean, and welcome in. I'm enjoying the muting and the echo issues. Love that." Yeah, I lost my headphones for a minute as well. Can't Chasing Me Now spring from a hotel room like last week for in instead of a bunker. Keep up the great work. Brilliant. Well, last week was absolute chaos. Today is a little bit of organised chaos, but we like that. Cheers, Tony. Glad you're enjoying the show. Hit the like button if you are enjoying it, guys. Loads of deadline streams, as always. This is the first time we've gone up against all the big YouTubers on an actual deadline stream, half an hour before the deadline. So help us in that algorithm. Hit the subscribe button and, of course, like the stream. But Ian, let's chat more on Man City and your predicted 11, because, as you mentioned, it's a thinner squad now with all those departures, not many replacements. Foden, Alvarez, FPL managers are thinking about them.
Yeah, can we just get something straight? I don't think Bernardo Silva's playing against Newcastle. I'm pretty sure that Pep Guardiola ruled him out during his press conference. It wasn't in the section where he actually clarified a couple of the things that he said.
Yeah.
Where I think at that point he ruled out John Stones, said he had a muscle problem, and also said that Ruben Diaz was still a doubt. He missed the Burnley game with concussion. He was back on the bench for the Super Cup win, in the week. But yeah, I'm fairly certain that he ruled Bernardo Silva out of the game against Newcastle. So
that makes
like
sense.
I say,
the red flag, because it's not an orange or an amber, it's a red. So FPL site is accurate on that at least, which is good.
Yeah, it's illness as well that saw him miss the Super Cup final, and Guardiola didn't add anything to that. So we have to presume for the moment that it's still illness and he's still not quite recovered. So in terms of the 11, I've left Diaz out for the moment because I feel like there is some doubt there. I'll caveat that with the fact that Guardiola did say that he was hoping he would be available. So I've gone with the same back four that started in the final in the week. So it's Ederson in goal, Kyle Walker, Manuel Akanji, Nathan Ake, and Josko Vardiol. Then Rodri and Kovacic in front of them, Alvarez behind Haaland, and Cole Palmer and Jack Grealish. So that's my City 11 to face Newcastle.
Where's Foden?
I don't think he'll play.
Where's my boy? Oh,
yes,
you own him.
A headache.
Of course, yeah. When I saw he was starting against Burnley, I was like, all settled pre-season. If he starts versus Burnley, I'll chuck him in and hope for the best the first few weeks. I predict he's going to be an early sell for me for one of the Spurs midfielders, but until I know if it's Richarlison or Maddison I want, hey, maybe it's both of them, I was happy to chuck him in. He obviously played 90 in the week. Do you think without KDB in the team, they need Foden's set pieces, because I know Alvarez and Foden have been sharing them, but Foden's set piece delivery, again in the Super Cup, like think of that Ake header, is so on point, and I'm not sure Alvarez has got that delivery on him quite like KDB or Foden.
Are you worried about Foden then, Gianni? Is that what you're saying?
A little bit. With your prediction, I am. But before I'd seen your prediction, I wondered if, and I saw Bernardo was out, Gundogan's not been replaced like for like, no Mahrez. I actually think he will start, but it's a close call.
I'm just in it to wind you up, mate. Foden's in my predicted 11.
Is he? You're kidding me. Oh, even the ticker. I'm going off the ticker as well. So our producers stung us.
Yeah, he's in on it. Don't worry. I've got to be back with a bang, mate. I've got to do something to wind you up.
So what, have you gone no Kovacic and you've gone, or no Palmer?
No Palmer.
I'm not sure about Alvarez. Well, yeah, definitely Palmer, but I'm not sure totally about Alvarez either, because he's also had a muscular problem, which meant that he wasn't able to play from the start in the week. So that was a really minor issue from what I'm told. So there's a fairly good chance that he's going to be available for this game as well. But I think one way or another, Phil Foden will be in there, mate. I'm just pulling your leg.
Hallelujah. Dean, what do you think with Cole Palmer? Like, he's obviously done really well in the summer. One of England's best players in the Euros and under 21s, and kept out some big names from other clubs in that starting 11. Good. We've seen good goals. He's getting some minutes, but to play twice in 3 days, is it 3 or 4 days? It seems like I just assume Pep benches him and maybe comes off the bench.
Yeah, look, in terms of his future, I don't see what more the lad can do to try and prove himself at Man City. Like he's doing everything he possibly can. The problem he's got is he's trying to prove himself to the best team in the world and the best manager in the world. Like anywhere else, he would be fine. He would be set and he would be part of the squad and he'd be getting rotated and all the rest of it. And I think people will be allowing him the time that he needs to feel at home in Man City and kind of ease his way in life, kind of like Foden was. I assumed that Cole Palmer was going to get that opportunity, be put alongside a mentor like Foden was with David Silva, and then kind of be brought in across this season. And next season will be the season he kind of bangs. Also, because of the impact he's been making when he has been playing, I feel like it's adequate for what Man City are needing anyway. It might not be perfect, but if he's scoring goals, then I feel it should help him. But none of what I've read convinces me that Man City aren't going to sell him if a good offer comes in. Ian, what do you reckon they would do there?
Well, there's a slight ambiguity to what Guardiola's been saying, and that's because City have a policy where if players want to leave and the right offer comes in, they're quite happy to sell them. And that goes for Erling Haaland or Cole Palmer and everyone in between. So I don't think Guardiola would ever say, we are absolutely desperate for a player to stay and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. It's very much like we like him, we rate him. He's been very complimentary about Cole Palmer. Palmer's obviously scored, the goals in the Super Cup and also the Community Shield, which underlines his quality. And I think all being equal, he'll stay as a Manchester City player this season. I'm not sure that he's going to be first choice. He's in that team for a bit of banter with Gianni. But he'll play. And I think Pep has also said that if he hangs around the team, he will play minutes. Now, the big issue that Palmer had last season, and the reason that there is any doubt really about his future, is the fact that he wanted more minutes. So at the end of the day, if he's going to get more minutes, that solves what the original issue was. And Guardiola's happy for him to stay around, has given him opportunities already. So I don't really see it being a situation where City are desperate to get rid of him unless he says he wants to go and they get a good enough offer for him. So like we've been talking about, in terms of the right wing spot especially, it's not like they've got options coming out their ears. So he's going to get minutes if he hangs around, definitely, and more Premier League meaningful minutes as well.
What are you making of the transfer business and like they seem to be getting quite different options? I mean, Paquetá looks like it's fallen through now, but the Doku one is quite interesting. I mean, Doku is amazing. And he's got the trickery of a Mahrez, but he's a lot stronger. He's a lot more direct. He seems quicker. I like Doku a lot.
He's rapid, yeah.
Yeah, I think City are looking for someone in that attacking midfield stroke wide area. That seems to be the space. It's certainly the right-hand side that the short on options at the moment, especially with De Bruyne being out now for 4 to 5 months, which is a huge blow to City. They are a little short in that position with Mahrez going, with Gundogan going as well. I think that makes Phil Foden a good option, I have to say. Yeah. I couldn't get him into my team, as we'll look at our teams in a little while, because it would have meant not having Rashford or Saka. I wanted Salah, so it was a way of trying to make that work. So I think he's going to be a good option this year, and seeing him at times playing quite close to Haaland at Burnley, and even like you were saying, Gianni, before, his set pieces as well. I think he's a great option at 7.5.
Tony's asking about Croatians, and we got a couple now at City. We mentioned earlier, like Ian interviewed Guardiola earlier and said good FPL pick at 5 million. I completely agree. Kovacic is also 5 million for a midfielder, but you just don't get the upside with Kovacic. Look at his record at Chelsea. He scored, I'll guess, his time in Chelsea in the Premier League, I bet he scored 5 goals maximum. Just doesn't score goals. Often will assist the assister, sure. If you're looking for a 5 million Man City midfielder, though, maybe that is Cole Palmer if we start seeing him starting games, because
might be Rodri, mate, the way he's playing.
Yeah.
Do you know something? This seems like a good point to talk about, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. So Alejandro Garnacho's in my team. And similar to Foden coming into the first weekend, I was quite relaxed about having players in the top teams, the attacking teams, who maybe aren't going to start every week, purely because there is so much injury time being added onto these games at the start of this season that if you're coming on for half an hour, in reality, you could be on for 40 minutes. You could even be on for 45. It's the equivalent of half a match. And for players like Garnacho, who are only 5 million, who are likely to be brought on if they've not started because Manchester United need a goal or need to win the game, I wonder whether actually this year being rotated is not as much of an issue as it was in previous years, because there's so much added time. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, those that get high shot volume, I'm a big fan of if they're starting or getting half an hour. Like, as the years have gone on, and I've always had people sort of semi-trolling, being like, "Oh, he's a rotation risk." I'll name some players I like, but I'm always told, "Don't get near him; they're a rotation risk." Jota, Darwin, Foden, these sorts of players that get the big shot volume and they're greedy and the chances fall their way, I'm happy, even though I know they might be benched, because they come on and they're a good impact sub. Well, now that's just got a load better, because that impact sub's not getting 20 minutes, he's getting 30. So I like them as FPL assets. And if the fixture's right, I still think Jota, for example, this week, we don't know if he's nailed to start. I think he's a good option versus Bournemouth. And I think Garnacho probably fits in a similar sort of category. Are you with me on that, Dean? You don't mind a risky pick, do you?
No, and I like Garnacho, but I didn't like his performance against Wolves, so that would be scaring me right now. I mean, I don't know what happened to him. It was disastrous performance, wasn't it?
He wasn't good, but he wasn't the only one.
He wasn't the only one. I was just surprised.
Yeah,
he's usually kind of immune from like the Man United like nervousness and like that edgy feel. Like Garnacho is normally like, I'll just do my thing, and it seemed like he'd fallen into the trap of like the Man United ways that gets into their head.
I think his first touch was a handball, and then it got worse from there, basically. But he's a kid, isn't he? There's going to be games like that. There's still a bit of a thought around the fan base, certainly, if not the club, that he's an impact player. He's still at the stage in his career where coming off the bench and having half an hour against a tiring team. There you go. Rehan is saying that as well. Having half an hour against a tiring team, or pushing on against a side that have been stubborn for United, and he's the plan B. But I know for a fact the plan this season is for him to start more games. I know that the plan this season is for him to develop into a starting player for Manchester United who can play consistently, who can contribute from the start. There's options already. You're only talking about Højlund, who's not available, really. I don't think Martial is giving him, much of a threat on that left-hand side. So, there's belief in Garnacho, definitely. And he's only 5 million. That was the thing for me. If you're having a 4.5 million midfielder or 5 million, there's going to be times where he's first choice. I'm happy to go with him at that price.
Do you think he'll start at the weekend, or do you think Jadon Sancho will start?
I'm not sure. In pre-season, United changed their shape in 2 of the games, which felt at the time like preparation for important Premier League games like the Spurs match, where they added Kobe Mainu into midfield and Mason Mount played in a wide area.
Oh, right.
So Mainu's obviously not available at the weekend. He's got an ankle injury from the Real Madrid game, but it might be an Eriksen who comes in. It might be a Scott McTominay who sort of beds out the midfield a little bit more, especially considering how open United seemed against Wolves in that area.
They can't play like that again, yeah.
But it could be Jadon Sancho. He had actually a pretty positive pre-season. He made an impact when he came off the bench the other night as well. So you could just see him slot in on the left wing. But throughout pre-season, he was used more as a false 9, as like a number 10 as well at times.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
No, but Ten Hag wants him to be involved in the games more. He feels that having Sancho in that area leaves him less isolated and gets him on the ball more and affecting the game more. And he thinks that's the way to bring the best out of Sancho, who's obviously not quite been at his best for whatever reason at United so far. So there's options in those positions, and I think there will be a change for the Spurs game, definitely. I don't see it being the same 11.
No.
I tweeted at half-time being like, if Sancho doesn't come on at half-time, Ten Hag's clearly got trust issues. And I just felt like, I don't know, a bit like a school teacher, or I don't know, he's got trust issues over putting Sancho on because Garnacho was having such a bad half. But maybe he didn't want to knock Garnacho too heavily and bring him off at half time. But
you know, another reason why you noticed that Garnacho was having a bad half was because no matter what he does, no matter whether he makes mistakes, handballs, miscontrols, whatever it is, gives the ball away, he's there again. He's an option again.
True.
And the team are giving him the ball as well. You know, those lads will train with him week in, week out. They'll know all about his quality. There's a reason why they keep giving him the ball and trying to get him on the ball as well. So, you know, did Anthony do anything more than Garnacho in that first half? Not really. I mean, Rashford barely touched the ball. He was very isolated. So,
yeah I mean, look, to be fair, like Ronaldo had the same problem when he joined Man United, so you never know. Like, he would make loads of mistakes. He'd run off the pitch. He'd do all sorts of things. So the old Viva Garnacho thing might not be totally lost on him.
Basically, I'm biased because I've made a mistake putting a 5 million midfielder in my team. But never mind. Let's move on.
The good news is United Spurs is guaranteed goals this weekend. So if you've got a United player, if you're frustrated with Bruno, you're frustrated with Garnacho, just leave him in because that fixture has goals for me. But look, we've got to get through 4 teams tonight. We're going to see all of our 3 teams, but most importantly, we're going to see the community team, and you guys are going to be looking at how that community team got on. Spoiler alert, it's ahead of me and Dean already, and we'll be making changes and putting the armband on whatever player you decide. So coming up next, we've got our team reveals. Here we go. I guess we'll do a couple of minutes on each of our teams and then get onto that community team because that's going to be the fun one.
Yeah, okay. I'll just gloss over mine, really. The gambles haven't paid off so far. Rice said that, you know, so my gambles obviously midfield of like to fit in when I made the late decision that I wanted Salah in my team. I had to find a couple of enablers, and last minute, really, I was like, I'd seen plenty of Brooks in pre-season. I was like, I actually like how he's playing. And to be honest, even from his first game of the season, he actually played well, and he actually came very close to scoring. And Rice actually came close too. Rice probably should have scored for Arsenal in that first day of the season. Anyway, I'm just sticking with that for now. It's just who I bring in for James. I can't get to Chilwell because he's 5.6 now. So I can't get there at the moment.
Guardiola, mate. Go City. Best defence in the league. And no one has City defenders.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. So at the moment, I'm short on City, and I think that it's the only place for me to turn. I don't know why Botman's in my team here. He's not. That should be Stones. So at the moment...
Well, you have got a City defender.
Yeah, but it's Stones, so he's not playing. So that Botman shouldn't be Botman. It's Stones. So at the moment, I'll probably bring in, Baldock or Gusto, and then turn James into Gvardiol, for example. And then, as we said on the title of the show, who we going with captain? I'm going Salah. I'm going against the Haaland vibe. Why not? I mean, this early in the season, I'm willing to go against Haaland. He's playing against one of the best teams in the Premier League, and Salah's playing against, to be honest, a Bournemouth team that are probably underrated, and I don't think this is going to be a 9-0. Even today, though, I'm looking at a lot of the predictions around this game, and everyone's going 4-0, 4-1, 5-0. I actually don't think that that's going to happen. Like, I might even top Liverpool out at 3 to just be kind to Bournemouth, but I also think Bournemouth will probably score in this game, if I'm honest. But I think Bournemouth can give them a much better match. But Salah, you know, after his strop and all the rest of it, his first home game of the season, he's going to have the bit between teeth. Have you seen the clip of him with the Premier League where he's talking about fantasy?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Good, isn't it? It's good.
Ian, you didn't shoot that, did you?
No, I didn't. I've spoken to him about FPL previously, though. He is a fan, and he's very aware of how popular he is.
Yeah, well, popular with himself too. He's like, yeah, I'm in my team. I'm captain. Like, I should be in everybody's team. But
it explains a lot about why he wants to take all the penalties and shoots more often
this is
than
exactly
not.
what I was thinking.
I thought
I was like, I like the fact
and...
Yeah, exactly.
If you got Salah, guys, Dean's doing the right thing. If you guys at home are watching this and you got Salah and Haaland and your armbands on Haaland, genuinely, if there's ever a week to go against Haaland, because you've got a great alternative option, I genuinely think Salah's the best option this week. You've planned all pre-season to accommodate Mo Salah because you loved that game week 2 fixture against Bournemouth at Anfield. Now back your guy and give him the armband. Don't be blinded by the fact that he didn't score goals last weekend. He could have walked away with a 15-pointer, hit the bar, could have had a penalty, goal disallowed. I really like Mo Salah as a captaincy option, and I think it's brave to go there, Dean, but it's the right call to go there. So, yeah, like the look of your team still, even with those flags. Let's move on and see Ian or my team. And guys in the chat, question for you all. Are you going Onana or Turner? Because Dean and I have both got this goalkeeper combination. Dean, are you going? You would Onana. Oh, have you got it too, Ian? Okay, great. So I'm going Turner. I'm pretty set on that, but I think it's going to be a pretty split vote. So let's poll that in the chat and see where you guys are at. Dean, are you torn or are you sticking with Onana?
I'm torn. Yeah, it says Onana, but that is not a set decision. I hadn't decided on it. I was leaving it late, but I absolutely have got no faith in Man United keeping a clean sheet this weekend against Tottenham. So it's definitely up in the air.
Spurs are going to attack for fun. Ian, where are you going on this one?
Turner, for the same reason. Yeah. I thought Sheffield United in attack didn't look great either in their first game against Palace. So yeah.
It just scares me that could kill us in like 2 hours. Within 2 hours, that pick could be dead. But also, I do feel like but I feel like I got away with one with Onana as well, because that I've never seen such a clear foul in my life. And like I was watching that game, I had the sound off. I was working on my laptop, and I've looked up and I'm like, oh no. Going to lose my FPL points. And I keep looking up. I'm like, why haven't they taken a penalty yet? Yes.
Mate, we were robbed as Onana owners because what we could have had was a penalty save and all 3 bonus points. So maybe we were robbed. You know, he's such a worldy keeper. He might have saved it.
Maybe.
This is where I'm at. I got $1 million in the bank. The plan this week was either to roll or sell Gabriel to bring Reece James in, because I was so impressed with Chelsea last week, despite only drawing 1-0 and not keeping a clean sheet. But I just thought James and Chilwell look great for that next run of fixtures. I'm going to stick with what I've got, obviously, with the Reece James news. I'm going to start Gabriel over Colwill in hope he starts. If Gabriel doesn't start, a bit like last week, I fear that he will come off the bench, because if Arsenal are protecting a tight lead, and again, as soon as I saw Gabriel benched, I tweeted saying, if there's 1 goal in it, going into the last 10 minutes, Arteta puts Gabriel on. He does this a lot, Arteta, with centre-backs. Rob Holding came off the bench a lot last season. So we could see that again, which would be really disappointing for that kind of 10-minute cameo for Gabriel. But I do think he starts. I'm going to ask you guys both quickly, do you think Gabriel starts against Palace? Because there'll be a lot in the chat asking that question. Ian, I'll come to you first. Timber's obviously out. Timber did play left-back, but maybe they need his physicality. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, it'd be a change of system, wouldn't it? I don't think Gabriel's starting if Partey's the inverted right back again.
Yeah.
I feel like he will, considering how extensive the answer was from Arteta about the ways in which he's going to switch up his defence depending on which team he's facing. You know, he's against the Palace side who are extremely direct. So I feel like the answer is yes. I'm going to start him for what it's worth anyway. This early in the season, it's so difficult to answer these sort of questions with 1 week's worth of data, but the only way I can back up my call is by saying I'm starting him.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to say no, just to give you something to worry about.
Oh, cheers, why not? I mean, Zinchenko has returned to training. I think I don't think he's ready to start. Zinchenko starting would help. Would definitely help Gabriel's course, because if Zinchenko's in the back line, he'll be the inverted fullback. Therefore, the likelihood of Partey starting, I think, is right back is much lower with Zinchenko in the team. The poll, by the way, the chat are all with us. They're going Turner over Onana. 88% are. In terms of other players, I'm fairly comfortable with my attacking lineup. I do think Jackson will be a player we all want to buy in game week 3. Got Luton at home, Game week 4, he's got Forest at home. If Jackson does well against West Ham, we'll all be looking in that direction. So having 2 free transfers next week will be really useful. If you can roll, guys, do. And then you might want to think about how you accommodate Jackson, because I think if Watkins blanks versus Everton and Jackson does well against West Ham, we'll be reactionary and we'll perhaps make that move. So that's where I'm at. Let's move on and see Ian's team. And then, guys, stay with us. You're going to be making changes, hopefully, in our community team. But first up, Ian, you've gone old school, 4-4-2.
Oh, yeah. What were you saying about Jackson?
Oh, you're one step ahead.
Oh,
Love that.
he's gone.
You might not have got the points, but you got a transfer ahead of us.
Yeah, because I did what I should have done in defence, which was Chelsea have got decent fixtures from game week 3. Just go with it and be set. Anyway, so Stones has become Chilwell. So that change was made on Monday to catch the price rise because I've not got any money in the bank.
Good one.
Other than that, the only real decision I had was sort of Gabriel, Cash, Garnacho, 2 from those 3. So I've gone for Cash and Gabriel at the moment because I'm not totally certain that Garnacho will start. So that's my lineup, yeah. And Mohamed Salah, like Dean, captain. There's no point owning him, in my opinion, really, if you're not going to captain him when he's got such a favourable fixture compared to Haaland. And the issues we were talking about with City as well just gives you that extra little nudge, doesn't it? The only thing against it is, do you remember Mo Salah's performances against Bournemouth last season?
9-0 and he blanked.
9-0 and he blanked, and a 1-0 defeat away, and he missed the penalty.
Missed a pen, didn't he? Yeah, it was like the moment he makes up for it, and he just completely missed it.
So I'm hoping
he's got a lot to make up for, at least.
All his bad luck last season against Bournemouth, definitely.
And last week, because he was Salah owners were unlucky against Chelsea.
True.
But I think he missed 2 penalties last year. I've got a bit of a theory. Not a theory. I still think Salah's probably on pens, and you lot aren't going to agree with this in the chat, and I don't know if you two will either. I'm not convinced he's on pens, and I'll tell you why. Sabbatsly's, I think, 12 from 13 or 13 from 14. His record's unbelievable. McAllister's record's really good. Both of them have a much better record than Salah. Salah missed 2, and I noticed Sabbatsly's taken corners off Trent and Robbo. And I'm like, oh, okay. If he's taken some of the set pieces, maybe he's going to be on pen. I just wonder. I think if I was putting money on it, I'd still say Salah has pens. But I think there's a chance. There's a chance that Salah's not got penalties. But hopefully we'll find out soon. Do you two think I'm bonkers with that?
Well, it's Salah, isn't it? You're relying on him. I mean, their records sound great. And yeah, we've seen them in McAllister's case score penalties in the Premier League before. But it's Mohamed Salah. You know, it's a player who wants to score as many goals as possible because he captains himself and his FPL team. So, you know, he's going to have to damage himself unless we get a sort of view of his team and he's got McAllister captain or something, and then we might know. But personally, I don't think it. He always backs himself no matter what. I can't see him stepping off penalties.
It's that ego as well that comes with it too, isn't it? Like he's. I just can't imagine him letting. I think the ego too that you need to be that sort of player that Salah is would stop you from letting somebody else take those spot kicks off you.
Yeah, look out, guys. Spurs and Chelsea. We still don't know who's on penalties for those two teams. And again, penalties is such a big part of FPL. I think Richarlison will have them, but Maddison or Son could. At Chelsea, I think Reece was probably the favourite, but in his absence, Enzo Fernandez is 5 from 5. And again, Enzo has taken those set pieces off corners, at least off Chilwell and James, worth noting, and he's playing more advanced. So check that out. Enzo is 5 million, by the way. Could become an FPL asset with Lavia and Caicedo behind him, giving more license. So
what about Endo? Is he going to be an FPL asset?
Yeah, maybe.
Enzo Fernandez could be a good replacement for any one of Garnacho, Brooks, or Rice.
Yeah, he could be.
For Dean and I. So, it might be an easy route out.
Yeah, love that. So you've made your transfer in. You went Stones on to Chilwell. Makes complete sense.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
And bravery captaincy, but definitely the right call. I'm convinced of that. Guys, there is still 25 minutes till the deadline. There's enough time to lock in our community team. So let's have a look at that. By the way, guys, the community team scored more points than me. I got 81 and more from Dean last week. I'm not sure what the total points were, but we'll let you know in just a second. We'll pop it up. But it's a good team. Very good team. Unlike ours, it's got 3 forwards, and I like that. Because if you've gone for an attacking 3 up front, you've probably got João Pedro in your team, and he looks like, again, another penalty player, a really good and sensible pick. But I think here we can easily get 11 out because Stones you could bench and Chilwell comes in. But I wonder if the guy you might want to consider selling this week is Bruno. So again, it got 83 points just to confirm. I think we'll put Turner in because the chat has already voted for Turner. So we'll swap Turner with Onana, but we could poll to sell Stones, or we could sell Bruno, or we could roll. I think there are 3 options. Should we sell Stones, sell Bruno, or roll? Do you two agree with that? Is there anyone else we should consider selling? Are they the 2 obvious candidates? Dean, I'll come to you first.
I mean, you could do Gabriel. I mean, you could put it forward as an option. I mean, some people are jumping off him, so you could go there, I guess, if you wanted a 4th.
Yeah, okay. So we can poll. I think you can do 4 in the poll.
Ian, I think 4 is the max.
They're the 4 options: Stones, Gabriel, Bruno, or roll. Agree with that?
Yeah, I'd strengthen the weakest part of the team. That's something I always try to do, unless there's a major reason why you'd want to switch out of Bruno Fernandes. If a week ago you thought Bruno was a good pick, there's nothing that I saw in the Wolves game, apart from the fact that United was so poor collectively, that would change my mind. I'm not sure about him as a pick, to be honest. And the lower price definitely helps compared to the sort of 10 million mark as he's been in the past, but his returns dropped off a cliff for much of last season. So it's definitely an aspect to keep an eye on, especially with where Mason Mount plays and how that affects Bruno's position as well. So I think I'd probably strengthen defence. I'd get rid of John Stones and replace him. That would be my change. And maybe even bring in Vardiol, to be honest, if you want to keep a City defender. I don't think any of them are going to play every week. You know, it's just not going to happen, is it? We want them to. And as the season goes on, we might understand who this year's Akanji is or this year's Diaz is, but even they get rotated surprisingly at times. So it's just about trying to jump on one and ride the storm, really.
Yeah.
Your observation of Bruno is really interesting because I'm with you. If you thought he was a good pick a week ago, nothing should have changed. However, I don't think he's a good pick this season. And I think Mason Mount definitely impacts that. Just watching, I looked at the average position map of every preseason game just to understand the balance. And in some games, Bruno was more advanced than Mount. And in other games, it was the other way around. And again, like they can't both go at the same time. It's 2 number 8s. When one goes, the other one's usually got to hold a little bit. And what we saw against Wolves was Mount going more often than Bruno until Mount came off. And then Bruno was super advanced. So do you think Mount makes Bruno potentially in that system with 2 number 8s a slightly worse option in? Is that a fair comment?
Not necessarily. I think the system makes Bruno a weaker option, because we saw that last season as well when Eriksen was playing in the Mason Mount position. Even though he was more withdrawn, it still seemed to affect the way that United attacked. That said, they have to improve on their goal scoring record from last season. They scored fewer goals than any of the other teams in the top 6, 7, 8, maybe. I think there's only one team in the top half who scored fewer goals than United, and that is an area that needs to improve. And it can't just be, Højlund who comes in and does that. Fernandes should be a source of regular goals. He's done it in the past. So Ten Hag's going to have to find a way to get more out of him. But for me, in FPL, until we see that regularly, he won't be in my team personally.
Dean, this is where it gets fun. The chat are voting en masse and it's changing a lot. It started off with sell Bruno as the leader. Then it went to roll. Now sell Stones looks like the most popular option. No one has.
Ian's just influenced that. Ian's little Bruno chat just influenced the chat. I saw it come back as he started talking around it. It has to be Stones. It has to be Stones, though, doesn't it? Like
I voted Bruno.
Did you? No, I mean across the season maybe, but like for this, like Ian says, you got, especially like game week 2, you've just got to go directly attack the weakest spot in your team, and there's no point having Stones there. You got to get him out.
Yeah,
you've got to remember in this team as well, you've got a doubt over Gabriel starting. Bayer hasn't got a fixture this week either for Burnley.
Yeah.
So, you need to make sure that you're able to get 11 players out for a start. So there's a definite issue there, isn't there, to be fair?
Yeah, because you could argue if we sell Stones and buy Gvardiol, you could argue you might pop him on your bench sub 1, but that's not a bad thing. You might need sub 1 this week. So far, sell Stones has got 49% of the vote, and I can't see that changing. So if we're going to sell Stones, we need to poll who we replace him with, and then we need to poll, is he in the starting 11 or are we benching him? So first up, who are we replacing Stones with? Marwan has said, what about Pau Torres or Patterson? I guess we could look at banking some money. Rico Henry, Derek says, we're going to put Gvardiol as an option. So option 1 can be Gvardiol. I think Rico Henry is getting a lot of love in the chat, so we'll go Rico Henry. I'm not massive on the Pau Torres shout. I'd rather go Matt Cash if we want to buy a 4.5 Villa defender.
I wouldn't touch Villa at the moment and defensively. Like they were all over the place against Newcastle. Like Pau Torres and Konza were like not even communicating at all. Like they were all over the place. Like we need to see that defense again before we start bringing in any of their players, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Punter said Botman, which for the long term isn't a bad move, and we probably don't want to be making too many changes. And CH has said Colwill. So why don't we do those four? Colwill, Botman, Gvardiol.
I like Udogie, you know. I think.
Udogie is actually a nice one. Yeah, that is a good one.
Especially with Spurs fixtures after this United game. I was really impressed with him in that Brentford match, and Emerson. Either of those two, really.
Let's do Udogie instead of Colwill then, because we've already got Chilwell, and we might want more attacking Chelsea players. So we go Udogie, Botman, Gvardiol, or Henry. There are four. Where are you guys going to vote? I think I'm going to go Gvardiol just for that set and forget City defender. And then if he plays, if he's benched, he probably doesn't come off the bench.
I've got him in my own team. I've just done that. So I don't want to have the two teams the same. So I've gone Udogie because Ian's right. He was actually really good. And that was the other name I'd kind of forgotten that I was going to be bringing to my team that I thought about, especially... after Man United's shaky start, I thought he might even have potential for this weekend, depending on how Man United reshape. You know, if Man United were to play with the same shape as they use against Wolves, which I don't think they possibly can, but Tottenham will totally exploit them, and he'll be part of that.
Ian, where are you voting? You've definitely influenced the chat here, Ian, again with your Udogie comment.
I think Udogie, just because I think it's a bit more exciting than some of the other options, and like we're saying, this United game, I can see them conceding in that. In fact, I can see them conceding every week because they're so attacking. But he was so attacking; he was a major feature. He was like the furthest man forward for a lot of the plays. With Son staying really wide as well, he was like an inside forward. So 4.5 for a old school top six team who look like they're going to be improved under the new boss. Postecoglou, I'd go with him.
Good at set pieces in the opposition box as well. He's a big lad, like for a fullback especially. And I think pre-season he may have scored a header from a corner. I owned him quite a bit in Serie A fantasy last year. He was like a 4 million defender through Udinese. And I didn't know who he was until I was playing the fantasy game and kept seeing this guy was scoring points every week because he was getting attack in return every week. So I just put him in my team, and brilliant fantasy asset. So 41% of you agree with that. So Udogie wins that vote. Henry and Gvardiol pretty close, 27 and 23, and then Botman. So we will make a change to the community team this week. Turner will come in goal. We will make sure we make that change because I know you guys want Turner over Onana. We'll then sell John Stones for Udogie. But I guess the question will be, who do we start? Gabriel or Udogie? Because we're definitely starting Estupiñán and we're definitely starting Chilwell. So I guess we should poll Gabriel or Udogie to start, because we can only have one of them. We definitely want a back three, I'm sure. I'm sure Man United score. Ian, United score, don't they? This game's got goals, United Spurs.
Yeah, I think both teams score, yeah. Although I think Crystal Palace, maybe I'm less certain about Palace scoring than United and Tottenham. So I'd probably go Gabriel, yeah.
Dean, the bookies have Crystal Palace... they have Arsenal as for clean sheet odds. Friend of the show, FPL Salah, does his clean sheet odds every week as per the bookies. And I think for a clean sheet, Arsenal was second or third. They would like 48% likely to keep a clean sheet, higher than Spurs. So are you thinking Gabriel? Oh, you're
muted. I was on mute. But I don't see what that's based on, because if you watch Crystal Palace in game week 1, they actually were far more attacking than I was expecting. They created loads of chances. Ayew looks really good. Edouard looks, for Edouard, sharp. They've just kept Elise. Like, that is a massive moment in their season, like to have that behind them too. I just feel like this Palace team is going to have something about it this weekend. Like, Selhurst is a tough place anyway. Like, an evening fixture as well. Like, Roy Hodgson's no mug, like to set up against a team like this. I think Crystal Palace will score. As I said before, I've put them upset alert. I think Crystal Palace might even get something out of this game.
Eze is balling as well. His XGI for the game was almost 1. Like, not all teams put up 1 XGI or XG. Arsenal didn't. Eze did individually. So, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Let's see where these guys are voting, because it's probably going to be a close one. Okay, Gabriel is at 70%. So at the moment, we will start Gabriel, who I'm starting, and Ian is in his team as well. Guys, the deadline is 15 minutes away. If you are looking at making transfers, do it early. Do it now. We're not waiting on team leaks like weeks gone by because no one's got Forest or Sheffield United players. Although I did hear a rumour earlier, Baldock
one of my
might
subs.
miss out.
Yeah, I saw that. I was banking on him coming in for one of mine, so I definitely had to make sure I made my transfer. Otherwise, I'd have had no defenders.
How much is Morgan Gibbs-White, Johnny? I was just looking it up myself.
6.0, and he had a great end to the season last year and a good summer at the Euros.
I was going to say he quietly had a very good season last year, actually, for his price. I think he started at 5.5 last year. He was another player who had a bit of an eye on as a bit of a talisman for Forest, because actually at home, especially last season, they picked up some great results. And like you say, his end to the campaign was really good. I know he's not an option maybe at the moment, but as you look to sort of move out of some of the mistakes you've made that look like Alejandro Garnacho in your team, he could be another one to keep an eye on, see how he does against Sheffield United tonight, to sort of make a decision on that. So I don't think there's many options in that game tonight. Certainly Sheffield United, their start, beyond George Baldock being a 4 million defender, there's not much there. But yeah, Forest are one to keep an eye on. It's hard to know what sort of season they're going to have, really.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. We like them at home, Forest, that's for sure. In terms of price rises and price drops, guys, there are a few players going up in price tonight, or very likely to, as per the predicted. So Mbomo is likely to rise. Diaby, Ake, Maddison, João Pedro, and Chilwell, who's already risen, Chilwell. He could go up to 5.7 tonight. So just FYI, if you're looking at these players and next week you might not be able to afford them, then just know that those players are going up. But we did have a super chat about Reece James, and I don't think he's going to drop in the next day or two. So currently, don't feel like you have to drop or sell Reece James tonight. You might want to wait until next game week or even Saturday night to make that move. So just so you know,
what do? Just drop once over the course of time that he's out. Like, what happens with players typically when they're out injured? They just have one price drop and then it just stays as it was.
Yeah, at some point when they're injured, I'm sure they get locked, so they can't drop any further. But I don't know if that would count. I don't know if that would count for tonight or by tomorrow, because the flag only went on today. So I don't know if that's locked in from today or locked in from 2 a.m. is when it changes.
So if he's not due to drop tonight, then he won't drop, will he? Yeah.
Then you'll be fine. Yeah. So and the reason he's not reason he's not due to drop, it's interesting because although he's had loads of sellers, before his injury, he had, I think, 180,000 people buy him at the start of the week. So because he's already was close to going up in price, he's therefore miles away from dropping in price.
Nice.
Yeah. Early transfers, don't do it unless you have to. Ian, you made the right call on Chilwell, though. 5.6, and he getting up to 5.7 tonight. You obviously had to go early, and it worked.
Yeah, and I never do that, but I couldn't sleep after doing the Manchester United Wolves game when I got home, and it was like 10 to 1. I was like, I'm just going to check to see if Ben Chilwell's due to go up. And they do rise around that sort of time as well, don't they, in the early hours of the morning?
It's 2 a.m., yeah.
2 a.m. So I had an hour, so I could have chilled and had an extra cup of tea. But at 10 to 1 on Monday night, rock and roll, the FPL season's back. There's me sat up in bed in the dark, making my FPL changes. It just seemed like a no-brainer. Chilwell was so good in that game that I didn't even know at that point that John Stones was going to be involved with the Super Cup either. I'd heard that it was a muscular problem, and you never know with those sort of injuries, especially with Stones' history. So I just didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah, fair. We'll take some quick fire questions, guys. Although Ian and Dean are conscious that we've just hit an hour. So if either of you do need to pop off, then do so or let us know. If we can, we'll go on for another 11 minutes to deadline.
Yeah, unless you hear my kids crashing through the door, I think we'll be all right.
I'll be the same. We had a good question in from CH, but we'll first take just a nice guy. Do you think Cash will start? Ian, I'll come to you on this one first.
I think so, yeah. Again, it's game week 2. It's very difficult to know, but looking across pre-season and also obviously last week as well, I think Matty Cash will start. He's played, I think we were talking about this before we came on, actually, the option that Chelsea have got of rather than starting with Malo Gusto as a direct replacement for Reece James. In pre-season, they played a sort of lopsided defensive system where Chilwell was given the the license to bomb on and the right back held back. So it might be a Disasi who plays as like a right centre back, right back. Similarly with Villa, that they were the same, but the opposite way around. So Matty Cash was the one getting forward a lot, and Pau Torres was playing as a left back and tucking in, which obviously changed for that first game against Newcastle, and they conceded 5 goals. Tyrone Mings' injury changes things a little bit, but considering they're already going to have to make a change with him, I'm not sure that Unai Emery is the type to make even more changes and gamble even more. I think he'll start Cash.
Yeah, if you own Cash, just know when Moreno is back, and I think that's a few months' time, then he might become a bit of a risk for rotation. If you're only picking one full back and you're going with 3 centre backs, I think Cash could drop out for the start of the season. He's a perfectly good pick.
They're trying to sign another full back as well, aren't they? So
they are. That's the other thing to keep an eye on, definitely. Yeah.
Got rid of Ashley Young as well, and he's still going strong. I saw you had a good chat with him in the week, Ian.
He's a great guy,
Is he? Yeah. Who to bench, Dean? This is for CH, our moderator on the channel. Thank you, CH, for doing that again tonight. Who to bench? This is a hard one. Do you bench your Arsenal defender, your Chelsea defender with huge upside, or your City defender? City have got the hardest fixture, I guess.
City have got the hardest fixture, so I guess if you had to go with one, then I'd go Akanji. But in any other walk of FPL right now, I wouldn't be doing that. I'd be keeping a City defender in my side. But yeah, I mean, Chilwell absolutely ranks first. Like, you definitely pick him. So it's a toss up between Saliba and Akanji, and Saliba probably just edges that, although Akanji definitely plays. So I'd say Saliba, but only by a tiny fraction.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, or possibly Akanji. That's a tough one. Guys, if you do ask a super chat question, there's no pressure to do so. We'll obviously prioritize that. We're not going to get to all your questions in the chat, but we will get through as many as we can in the next 6-7 minutes. So Ryan, who'd you say to managers transferred in James? Okay, and a lot did. Should we be looking at a -4 or deal with him next
That's a bad
week?
place to be in game week 2, Ryan.
That's tough. I mean, it depends
who
your first sub is.
It is a good
lesson to learn.
Yeah,
I would say, it depends who you can bring in. I go through different sort of mindsets with this sort of decision, where at the moment, like, I've been proactive making the early Chilwell change. If there's someone you want, part of me just thinks do it. Take the -4 now and then crack on. And then you don't have to think about it again. And that annoyance that you've got of doing the change has gone straight away. The more patient manager in me, which I do have spells being like that as well, would say, hang on, get another week of information. You've got 2 game weeks to sort of mull over rather than one, and make a more informed decision next week. So depending on your personality, it's one of those two, clearly.
Yeah, I hear that. Punter asks, Onana or Areola? I would go Onana, I think, because it's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Areola did get the #1 shirt last week. Enzo or Pedro, back the striker that you know is on penalties. And Brighton attacked for fun last week. But good question, Punter. We'll come next to Dean with the next question that comes on screen. Right. Oh, Dean, you got a long one. Evening, chaps. I've captain on Salah, as does Dean, as does Ian. Should he play it safe with Haaland? FPL Holly owns both. She's still captain in Haaland. She said to me earlier, owning Salah's enough. I said, come on, Holly, you've got to do it. She said, no, like, the EO is scary, and some managers will just play the percentages. That's not my game plan, but there's very good managers out there that will happily just do that, and it's worked for them.
Yeah,
so
he says he had a 90-point game week 1 with no chips played. That's good to know. So I feel I have wiggle room to do this. Look, if you're ever going to feel like Salah's a gamble over Haaland, then game week 2 against Bournemouth is the time to do it. Like Ian put it really well at the start of the show. What is the point of having Salah in your team at 12.5 if you're never going to captain him, especially for a game like this? Like, that's the whole point of fitting your team around 2 premium players. If you're going to stick Haaland and Salah into your team, there have to be weeks when you're willing to take the gamble on Salah to get points that other people aren't going to get. And a week when Haaland's playing one of the best teams in the Premier League and you're playing one of the worst, that's the week you have to go for it.
With a decision like this, there's 2 things that you're backing. You're backing Mo Salah to have a good week, and you're backing Erling Haaland to have a below par week. And there aren't going to be many weeks in the season where you get that call correct.
No.
But this is the type of week where you're beginning to look and think, right, well, City have got their issues. They're up against a Newcastle team that even Pep Guardiola's singing from rafters about, and Liverpool are at home against a Bournemouth side who are likely to come and want to play football under Areola, and I think that could benefit Liverpool. So, normally you're taking a huge gamble betting against Haaland, not to mention the fact that you're betting for Mohamed Salah to have a good week as well. But, it's what we play the game for, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly that. Think of the upside. Don't just think of the what if Haaland does go big? Think of the idea of what if Salah goes big? You've captained him and Haaland blanks. That is very, very possible, guys. And think of the huge green arrow you get off that, knowing the world and their dog of Captain Haaland.
I love it. Yet again, by the way, Ian talks and Tom's just gone triple captain Salah.
Oh. No, not that.
No,
Don't
Tom.
get that heavy.
No, Tom. Save it. Chill out, mate.
I'll tell you what, Ian, the chat are definitely hanging on your every word because every poll sort of changed as soon as you started talking. And again, that's a great example.
Basically, this is the first time I'm on. Nothing I've said will go well this week. And then the next time I'm on, the chat will also be affected the opposite way. Yeah.
FPL Overthinker asks about United, Ian. I'll come to you. Don't have a great run apart from Forest at home. Is Rashford really indispensable? And it's interesting because if Rashford we knew had to play number 9, I'd be like, look, we could probably sell him because we just know he's not as good an FPL asset there. But Rashford is going to move out onto the left-hand side, probably by game week 3. And when he does, guys, we know from last year, he's amazing. He's a brilliant FPL option. So whilst I'd sell Bruno, I can't see myself selling Rashford in a hurry. Do you agree with that, Ian?
Why do you think he's going to move left by game week 3?
Well, if Højlund's ready to start by game week 3, but maybe that's not the case. Do we know when Højlund's likely to start?
Not for definite, but even when he's fit, I'm not sure that he goes straight into the starting 11 either. I don't think there's a guarantee. You saw last season how patient Ten Hag was with someone like Casemiro. He didn't go straight into the lineup. It took him 2 or 3 matches before he started. There was other exceptions. Obviously, Martinez went straight in, and I think Anthony went straight in the Arsenal game as well. But I don't think it's an absolute definite that Højlund goes straight into the side when he's available.
Sancho could play 9.
Yeah, but also Højlund's had this sort of back issue, which they're going to have to be really careful with. And also, we don't actually know when he's going to be back for definite either. So I think you might see that Rashford is going to play, centre forward.
Do you reckon?
For maybe the next couple of game weeks.
Okay.
I could probably guarantee it. And then beyond that, there's even a chance maybe. I think Højlund will play. He'll get minutes and he'll start lots of matches as the season goes on. But just at the very, very start of the season, I'd wait until Rashford's moved, until you know that he's not going to play centre forward, to be fair. I'm not sure it's something that we're going to be able to predict sort of 2 or 3 weeks in advance. It also depends on how United are doing and how Rashford's playing in that position. That can affect things between now and then. So, it's a wait and see, I think. I don't think he's indispensable. I'm not sure who said he was, but... Yeah.
No, that's too strong.
It just feels like that, doesn't it? I mean, so many people have got him at this point. It just feels like I think people are scared not to own him as well. I think
there was a bit of that. Yeah,
I think that's part of why I've got him, to be honest. Rai, thank you, mate. What a lovely guy we've got sat in the chat there. He's super chatty. Just thanks, guys. Favorite streamers, a massive £1 each.
Love that, Rai. Thank you, mate. Guys, there's only 2 minutes left. Just check you've locked in. And I'm just going to do a shout out to our producer, just double checking we've got Turner starting instead of Onana. That's a big one, and that we've made the transfer. We've in our community team, we're selling John Stones for. Did we go to Udoji? I can't remember. Yeah, and we said we'll bench him, and we'll go Gabriel in the 11.
Okay.
Good stuff. There you go, guys. We've still got time for a question or two. We've got 2 minutes to the deadline, so we may as well take you up until 15:15 on the nose. I'm just looking at my phone to make sure I'm triple locked in. I don't know if you guys all do that, but I'm guessing you do. Just to make sure you've got the armband in the right place. I'm going Saka vice captain. Might change it to Foden. No, I'll stick with Saka.
I've got Haaland vice captain. Funny enough.
ZM, we've still got 30 seconds to the deadline. Should I trade Odegaard for Luis Diaz, Ian? What do you reckon?
Not yet for me. I think Diaz could be a brilliant option. He's obviously a lot cheaper than Salah, but I just don't know how it's going to play out between having Salah, who I think will start most weeks. There's Jota, there's Diaz, there's Gakpo, there's Darwin for those other 2 slots, potentially.
Clinton Morrison's made that exact move, by the way. Odegaard to Luis Diaz. But yeah, I'm not convinced on it. Cian says bench Eze, Pedro, or Mbomo, Dean. You got probably 5 seconds to answer.
And Mbomo, because he's playing against Fulham and he won't score.
There you go. Let us know what you did see, and it may have been too late. But
he actually ran us ragged last season. I probably shouldn't have said that.
I remember you watching that at the cottage, and you came away from that fixture on this show and said, Mbomo is like just completely class, and watching him live was a real pleasure.
Yeah, I like it sometimes when just a player that I must have been the first time I've ever seen Mbomo in person. You know, sometimes someone just catches you and like catches you out. You didn't realize they're quite as good as they actually are. Like it's one of the beauties of the eye test, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Luke asks, last question, and then we'll wrap, guys. Thank you so much for watching. By the way, before you leave, do like and subscribe to the channel. Dean and I are live on Mondays and Fridays. We've got Big Man Backer live on Wednesdays now as well. So loads going on at Chasing Green Arrows and reasons to subscribe. Ian, are you a former or a fixtures manager? A bit of both, I guess.
Yeah, and I believe that fixtures bring form. So I'm probably more of a fixture manager than a form manager. Yeah. Although some people don't even believe that form exists, do they? So
yeah, my friend at Scouts, Seb, says that, and I never quite understand his reasoning, but I shouldn't question Seb because he's awesome at FPL, but I'm always like, I think form is a thing. But yeah, I chase fixtures more than anything, which is where our captaincy always goes. We always captain the guy before Haaland came into the game. We always captain the guy that had the best fixture. Wicked. Well, Ian, it was lovely having you, mate. Thank you so much for joining us this Friday.
Thank you for having me and letting me be an influencer for an hour or so. It's quite fun.
And Dean, thank you for bringing the Fulham 91 shirt to the show as well, mate.
The retro shirt. I'll have it back on tomorrow again down at the cottage as we batter the bees, mate.
Love that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. For now, he's been Ian, he's been Dean, I've been Janny, and we've been Chasing Green Arrows. See you later.